Holy crap, guys. You are going to want to watch this one, especially if you use an iPhone 7, but I would suggest probably if you use iPhones in general, or if you're just using a cell phone and you got it next to your head. But before we get into that, my name is Derrick Broze, and you are listening to the Conscious Resistance Network. This is a home for reporting, documentaries, conscious music, books, and interviews that explore spirituality, anarchism, sovereignty, freedom, exposing political and corporate corruption, and a lot more. So you're going to want to bookmark theconsciousresistance.com to get all of our latest content. You can scroll down here if you want to follow us on our Minds channel, Steam it, on our Discord channel, get text updates through the Remind app. And of course, if you want to support on patreon.com/Derrick Broze, that is much appreciated. And finally, you can buy CBD and Kratom through our partner at My Brave Botanicals, and that helps support our work. And I did add a Subscribe Star account now because I know some of you guys don't like Patreon. So if you want to support me monthly or whatever, check it out there on Subscribe Star. So super explosive. Just this is really good journalism. This is a good investigation being done by the Chicago Tribune. Excuse me while my computer loads. That is about cell phone radiation, and as I said, the iPhone. It involves independent testing of the iPhone as well as other phones. And this is what they found. This was just published 5 days ago. We tested popular cell phones for radio frequency radiation, RFR. Now the FCC is investigating. All right, this could be big. The Apple iPhone was set to operate at full power and secured below a tub of clear liquid specially formulated to stimulate human tissue. With the push of a button, a robotic arm swung in action, sending a pencil-thin probe dipping into the tub. For 18 minutes, it repeatedly measured the amount of RFR the liquid was absorbing from the cell phone. This test, which was paid for by the Tribune and conducted according to federal guidelines at an accredited lab, produced a surprising result. RFR exposure from the iPhone 7, one of the most popular cell phones ever sold, measured over the legal safety limit and more than double what Apple has previously reported to federal regulators from its own testing. The FCC, which is of course responsible for cell phones, 5G, and other technological devices, states on its website that if a cell phone has been approved for sale, that means if you've bought it at a store and it's been approved, the device will, quote, never exceed the maximum allowable exposure limit. But in this independent lab inspection, it has done just that. And this is, of course, by the Chicago Tribune. Now, before we go any further, I should note this. Some researchers, especially those who are looking at smart meters, EMFs, 5G, and the like, are starting to realize that even at the safety limits that the FCC set in the 1996 Telecommunications Act, that you can have negative health consequences. There are starting to be found dangers and concerns from even those limits. So what they're saying is even at the limits that the FCC has set, which, as I said, are potentially already dangerous and not, set high enough, the iPhone 7 is barreling past that. And so you're getting, what do they say, 20 times the radiation right here? iPhone 7 measured over the legal safety limit. Let's see, I know they give a number here. Let's continue. Says they also tested 3 more brand new iPhone 7s at full power, and these phones also measured over the exposure limit. In all, 11 models from 4 companies were tested with varying results. The Tribune's testing, although limited, represents one of the most comprehensive independent investigations of its kind. The results raise questions about whether cell phones always meet safety standards to protect the public. And they're rushing forward to 5G. We can't even tell you conclusively that cell phones are safe. After reviewing the lab reports, the FCC says it would take the rare step of conducting its own testing over the next couple of months. And this is pretty big because think about this. With 5G, people have been asking the FCC to update their testing limits. And as I reported recently, they decided they weren't going to do so. They said they're going to stick with the 1996 limits. But now that the Tribune is doing independent testing, the FCC agency spokesman Neil Grace said, we take seriously any claims on non-compliance with RF exposure standards and will be obtaining and testing the subject phones for compliance with FCC rules. So, the Tribune has been apparently investigating this for over a year, and they've been asking, are cell phones as safe as manufacturers and government regulators claim? And though it's unclear, according to them, whether RFR from cell phones can increase cancer risk or lead to harm, the question is increasingly pressing given the widespread use of cell phones today and, again, of the expansion of 5G, which promises to put hundreds of thousands of new towers and small cells surrounding us in less than a few years, in less than a decade. So I will let you get into this on your own. I don't want to just sit here and read the article. I'm kind of over that sort of reporting. But you can see here the iPhone 7 is definitely reporting the highest amounts. And the interesting thing is, when they describe this test in the beginning, you say like, okay, they're putting a phone in a tub of liquid. What is that about? It's important to understand that the FCC doesn't actually test their models and their safety limits with human beings. Now, of course, that's human testing's kind of frowned upon in our world, but instead they use like a mannequin head, or they use this, as they said here, this tub of clear liquid to specially formulated to simulate human tissue. So they're simulating human tissue. We don't truly know, but they can say that it's putting off so much heat and an exposure to that could cause dangers. But it's not just that. It is the EMFs themselves. Although we've been taught in our world that non-ionizing radiation is completely safe, the evidence is starting to pile up and indicate otherwise. If you've listened to this channel before, you've heard our interview with Dr. Martin Paul of Washington State University, or Theodoro Scarrato of the Environmental Health Trust. If not, go to our 5G playlist, which you can find on the Conscious Resistance YouTube channel, and listen to those interviews for yourself to get a little bit more caught up and brought up to speed. So companies that are testing for new phone compliance with the safety limit are permitted to position the phone up to 25 millimeters away from the body, which is nearly an inch, depending on how the device is used. So think about that. Even when they are testing, for one, they're using a mannequin head or this liquid to simulate the effect on human tissue, and they can test the levels at more than almost an inch away from your head. Now, I don't know anybody that holds their phones an inch away from their head. If anything, like the most basic way you can help avoid this, and this is coming from the National Toxicology Program themselves, as well as my own research and experience, stop putting the freaking phones in your back pocket. And if you do, put them on airplane mode or turn them off. I mean, do we really need to be plugged in all the time to make sure we get every single notification on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and whatever else? Can't we just be unplugged and present for a little bit and then just turn it back on, turn off airplane mode when you're ready to catch up? I mean, does it need to be radiating your breast or your back pocket or your front pocket, your testicles, your vagina, whatever you got? It might be radiating them and affecting your ability to produce children. Do we really need to have this next to our phone? I recommend speakerphone. I recommend using headphones. Don't use Bluetooth phones. It's the same technology, same concerns. Companies, okay, so they can test it from more than, just up to an inch away. And they go deeper into show you how, if you want to know the details of how they test them, they also test the Samsung Galaxy S8, which were more than 5 times the legal standard. So both Samsung Galaxy S8 and iPhone 7 over the legal limit. And they give a little bit more background on this whole thing. Of course, the California State Public Health Department issues rare guidance on how concerned consumers could reduce exposure. What did I just say? Don't carry cell phones in your pockets. Apple and Samsung are now responding. And let's see what they say. When informed of the Tribune's test results and provided with the laboratory's 100-page lab report, Apple disputed the findings, saying they were not performed in a way that properly assessed the iPhone. So, of course, they're going to deny it. And they go deeper into here. The Tribune defends its testing in the lab, and they give the people who tested it a chance to defend their methods. So, based on Apple's feedback, the Tribune retested the iPhones in the investigation, as well as an additional iPhone 7, making a change aimed at activating sensors that would reduce the power. Once again, the iPhone 7's produced results over the safety limit, while iPhone 8, that was previously measured over the standard, came in under. So they're saying if you test it a certain way, then it will activate sensors that can reduce the power. But what happens if your phone's not activating those sensors? Obviously, it can go way over the legal limit then. So I guess maybe it depends on how you hold your phone. Because, I mean, again, these conditions that are testing them that are according to the FCC guidelines are not even necessarily realistic to how somebody might hold their phone. You know what I mean? Like, somebody's not going to just sit there and hold their phone an inch away from their face. A lot of people do keep them in their pockets. 3 Samsung phones were tested by the Tribune: Galaxy S8, Galaxy S9, Galaxy J3, were positioned at 10 or 15 millimeters from the body. The distances chosen by the company in accordance with the FCC guidelines. So again, they're using FCC guidelines, which if they didn't, the FCC would say, well, those are not the way we test it. So they have to prove that even after the FCC guidelines, there are still dangers and concerns and risks. So around-the-clock cell phone use represents one of the most dramatic cultural shift in decades. In 2009, an estimated 50 million smartphones were in active use in America, according to the wireless industry, the CTIA, which is the telephone lobby. So 50 million. Today, there are 285 million. 29% of U.S. teens sleep with their cell phones. That is horrible, guys. I did this just less than a year ago. Stop it. Stop sleeping with your cell phones. If you got two parents, I mean, I don't want to be a statist or an authoritarian, but take the phones away from the kids at a certain point at night, because you're not helping them any by letting them stay glued in. And not only is it going to affect their sleep because of the blue light, and it's going to mess with them in all kinds of ways, but uh, you know, basically, it can affect them just by radiating them throughout the night. So take concern, take heed of that. Now, here's how cell phone radiation compares with other types. Again, we are told that on the electromagnetic spectrum, the electromagnetic frequencies, that cell phones do not cause harm. That what we should be concerned about is called ionizing radiation, gamma rays, X-rays, the sun. It's a common trope for people to say, oh God, you guys don't know anything about technology. You get more radiation from walking outside, in the sun. And this is based on, I can't really blame people, because this is what we've all been taught. This is what we've been taught in the past, that ionizing means bad. Non-ionizing means don't worry about it. It's nothing that's going to harm you. And this has been what we've been told about cell phones, infrared cameras, microwaves. Cell phones are in this range, 5G, AMF, radio, Wi-Fi, all this. We've been told that they're non-ionizing. They're on this side of the visible light spectrum, and they don't apply to health hazards. Only gamma rays, X-rays, ultraviolet light. It's BS, guys. It's bullshit. Don't buy into that. And if one of you comment that, then go do some more research. Dig outside of the industry-funded research and actually look into it. Now, again, they repeat this. Radio frequency energy from cell phones isn't powerful enough to cause ionization, which means ionization of the cells and the atoms in our body, which could lead to other harmful problems, which is what Dr. Martin Pall told me. He thinks it is affecting part of the cellular level down to the mitochondria and causing calcification. I really recommend listening to that interview if you haven't, and if you have, listen to it again. So again, they say that cell phones aren't powerful enough to cause ionization, but at a high level it can heat biological tissue and cause harm. Eyes and testes are especially vulnerable because they do not dispel heat rapidly. So your eyes, your balls, your very sensitive parts. And yeah, they did a good job here looking at the history. I recommend reading it, but of course, these are over the legal limit. Here's the liquid they use to simulate body tissue, head tissue, body tissue. This is interesting. It's just so weird. It's like they use these fake tissues to simulate what it might be like to expose people's heads and brains to cell phones. But this is a very informative article. I recommend reading it. They do a pocket test. They're looking for explanation. Like this is good work from the Chicago Tribune, from Sam Rowe. Shout out to Sam Rowe for good work. And I just want to mention this: since this case has popped up, since this article came out just less than a week ago, we actually have lawyers already stepping in and trying to say, if you want to get in on the class action lawsuit, it's time. Because if you're using an iPhone 7 or Galaxy S8 and some of these others, then you might have health issues already, or you could see the fruit of those health issues in the coming years. So Fagan Scott law firm launches investigation over troubling research showing radiation from risk from millions of cell phones. This could be the Chernobyl of the cell phone industry, cover up and all. This is a press release released just 4 days ago. I'll include this in the show notes as well. It says owners or users of iPhone 7, X, 8, and 8 Plus, Samsung Galaxy S9, S8, and J3, and Motorola Moto E5 and G6 could be affected by this. So you can contact them in case you want to try to get yourself a little bit of financial support. One thing I want to mention as well, because this does relate to 5G. Like I said, they're over there pushing for 5G when we're still finding out that cell phones are exposing us to dangerous amounts of radiation, and that the companies are lying, or just their testing is faulty, let's say, maybe the benefit of the doubt. But we've got people in the Wall Street Journal finally reporting, among others, that cities are saying no to 5G, citing health concerns, aesthetics, and FCC bullying. So although this article tries to dispel the idea that there's no reason to be concerned about health, it does do a good job pointing out the facts that local governments are sick of it and are pushing back. And they do a great job of just factually reporting that the federal government and the corporations have completely taken control and are stealing local power. Now, as I said, they do dismiss local concerns, health concerns, as just kind of being conspiracy theories, but it does show you that people are paying attention. And in there, they even talk about how once you fight against this, you open yourself up for lawsuits. And this is what I've talked about in Houston. You guys know that I'm running for mayor of Houston. What I've tried to tell people out here in Houston is that, look, this is not going to be an easy fight. If we choose to take this fight, they will sue us. The city of Houston would be sued. And this is why the current mayor and most people, they're not about shit and they're not really trying to do anything because they don't want to face lawsuits. And a lot of taxpayers don't want to deal with a lawsuit either. But if you're really trying to stand up, whether that means stand up to the federal government and say, like, look, we're not going to follow your law that says that we have no power. And you know what? Screw you, CTIA, Verizon, whatever. We're going to sue, we're going to fight you in court. Well, this is what will happen. The United States District Court from the Western District of New York, Cellco partnership with Verizon Wireless, the plaintiff versus the city of Rochester, suing a city for them choosing to try to have some say by imposing statutes, regulations, and ordinances that can help them, at the very least, make some money from these companies for building infrastructure in their communities, or perhaps try to control where it can be, try to keep their kids' schools from being impacted by these devices, or anything. You know, my point here is that they're trying to have some local say in the matter, and the FCC is siding with the corporations, and Verizon sues. So this is what you're facing if you try to fight back when it comes to the actual city government or local government. They will sue you, and that's just a fact of the matter. So if you don't have somebody in office that's willing to do that, it's going to be a hard fight. But as individuals, as activists, we can still hit the ground. We can still go to city council, HOAs, PTAs, PTOs, community groups, neighborhood groups, civic organizations, and try to educate people about these issues. Otherwise, we're screwed. So I think that you probably need local leadership willing to take this into court, as well, and lawyers, of course, as well as activists hitting the ground and educating the people about it. Because if what I've seen in Houston is if the people don't even know what 5G is, let alone why it's a concern, then it's kind of hard to build a movement. So you have to educate them first, like with many things. But that's where I'm going to leave it today, guys. Just wanted to inform you about all these stories that the Chicago Tribune, again, doing some good testing on cell phones and finding iPhone 7 putting out just, blasting past the legal allowable limit by the FCC, which itself may be dangerous already, as well as some of the Samsung phones and others. Again, a class action lawsuit now being filed. And this is all happening while people are pushing for the rollout of 5G. It's a very dangerous future we're living in, and we need to educate ourselves. If you appreciated this report, I want to invite you guys to donate to our Support the Future of the Conscious Resistance Network crowdfunding campaign. We have just 4 days left. We're running it through the end of August. I might do another one, maybe bi-monthly, a couple weeks of each month or something like that, give you an opportunity to support, because I'm not working for the Mind Unleashed anymore. I'm not working for Activist Post, for the Anti-Media, for Mint Press News, for Ben Swan's Truth and Media. I'm not writing for any of the outlets I've written for over the years, because the powers that wish they were and their buddies in big tech have smashed our industry and have completely obliterated our ability to make money. So we're all having to go independent and fight for whatever scraps we can. So if you value my work and my place in the marketplace, then I humbly request that you contribute to my crowdfunding campaign. You sign up for my Subscribestar account, you sign up for the Patreon account, or you can also send a single one-time donation via PayPal at the link below the video. And yeah, that's it, guys. I really appreciate your support. I really couldn't do this without you. And the kind words, the comments, and the emails really do help me keep going. So expect to see a lot more content from me as I focus on doing original reporting for our website and our YouTube channel. Until next time, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace.